Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for PlayStation Universe's extended E3 coverage. And right now, we're going to talk about a very special game, a game that we've been waiting for quite a while to be revealed.
And that is, just even to know what the game is.
Yeah, like there's been rumors and everything, but it's some 3 years, I guess, since we were first told that this particular studio, Sony Bend, was creating a game following their success in the likes of the PS Vita.
Yes,
so
with Golden Abyss, their most recent title. Yeah, so
Days Gone.
Yeah, Days Gone. Debuted by Bend Studio in Sony's E3 press conference this year, and what I got to do is see an extended, behind closed doors gameplay demo of the title. It was covered by Bend Studios' Eric Jensen and Ronald Allen, Ronald being the player in this case. But I wouldn't say that I saw a lot of content that was different from the E3 presser in particular. It was ostensibly the same section, but I did learn a lot more about the game's story and our context for being there, and how that gameplay section will measure up and be indicative of the game as a whole. So we'll start with the main character, right, and the kind of the setting type stuff. It's Deacon St. John. That's the former biker gang member that we play as throughout the game.
Good name.
Yes, good. It's a strong name, a historical name. Deacon St. John, right? He is a bounty hunter in this current life, a mercenary of sorts, basically, whatever that means in this post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic, that's maybe stretching it a little bit, actually, because it isn't like the world was completely decimated and all of humanity is lost and
I guess
gone.
you can still see the remnants of things.
And there's clear evidence that society is still functioning in some ways. I mean, he's got a radio and stuff like that. What really happened is that 2 years ago, a pandemic broke out in the United States, and it started turning human beings into what Sony Bend is calling freakers. That is kind of the official name of the horde that you see in that demo chasing after Deacon. So these are the freakers. They are living in the sense that they're not undead and they're not zombies. They can be killed and they won't just rise back up and come at you.
Which is good because there's so many of them.
Indeed. How would you ever get away, right? And get back on the motorcycle. Yeah, they need to eat and drink, so they have all these kind of survival needs that human beings would. They're just animalistic and they have no sense of decorum, no sense of society anymore. They just are hungry and want to feed, right? So as I mentioned, Deacon's a bounty hunter, and the content of the demo is essentially chasing after his latest target, a man named Two Dog. Why, we may never know. I'm sure we'll find out. It's a funny name nonetheless. But we're chasing Two Dog in an abandoned sawmill. And that's where we see him get off of his bike in the trailer, first start to creep through the gates and the walls and stuff, take that empty coffee can out of the truck, screw it on as a silencer. So we're walking through many of the same beats in this section. We were told right off the bat that the motorcycle serves as Deacon's inventory in the game. So one could presume, although this wasn't confirmed, that Deacon can only take a certain number of things on his body, but then the motorcycle serves as like your moving storage. And so you never want to be too far away from it. You always want to be cognizant of where your bike is, where all your things are, because that's where it's being stored. So we navigate through. We get a sense of how it plays. It looks, I mean, in terms of it being a third-person action adventure, it has vibes of The Last of Us, certainly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of commentary on that.
Very light platforming, climbing, and certainly he's not a Nathan Drake or anything like that, but he's just able to navigate. Yeah, right. We all want to be. So he moves toward the center of the sawmill, chasing after Two Dog. What struck me about the demo, and something I didn't notice right away in the presser, is that Deacon doesn't seem as afraid or as concerned with the horde as any normal human could or would be. Which got me thinking that maybe in this world, the freakers and the horde are just kind of, they've become a fact of life, like the humans of this world. They're a nuisance, right, for lack of a better word. At least that was the vibe I got, and I asked Eric Jensen about that after the presentation. He said that's more a function of Deacon's character than what the human race is like. Like, Deacon is, as a former biker gang member, he has done a lot of really nasty things, and he's seen a lot of really nasty things, and so he is perhaps uniquely equipped to deal with these horrors and not be particularly perturbed by them. So
I think that's interesting because we were talking previously about the sheer scale and amount of enemies that come at him during the original thing, and obviously that's a tactic to maybe show some frenetic gameplay, and it's funny that it's not even mirrored by his demeanor at all. He seems to...
Yeah, he at least approaches it confidently until the moment when they notice him. I mean, they first get to Two Dog and devour him, so the mission's a scrap, and now Deacon just has to get out of there, and we get into more of an action segment. We don't know yet if there are more types of freakers. You have to assume they are, just because of the nature of a game this long. But we have to escape the sawmill in some fashion. What struck me about I had a sort of a question after watching the E3 press from that was, why didn't we just run out of the sawmill back to the motorcycle, right? Mm-hmm. It's totally wide open. It's not really walled off in any major way. So the answer to that is, if you can make it, good for you. But most likely you won't be able to. Simply put, the Freakers are faster than you. They will outrun you in an open field, in an open environment. You won't simply just keep pace with them.
Yeah.
So the idea behind moving through the sawmill was actually to demonstrate that your best advantage against the Horde is the environment, specifically creating chokeholds that force them to go in other directions, knocking things down. Like
you see that quite a lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they crush the stairs. He goes through windows, and they're trying to find ways at him. And by doing all those things, he creates distance, and that's something that the player will have to do in the game proper to sort of, if not outsmart them, just outmaneuver them and try to gain an advantage. Other than that, we saw a few more environmental interactions. Deacon ran past a pile of logs, slashed at the cord with his knife, and had that tumble behind him. There was another moment where he planted a firebomb on a log pile to detonate that and send it over them. So I think that plays into what they describe as a crafting system of some kind. They specifically mentioned an airbag bomb as being an object that you can create. Didn't get any more explanation than that or see it in action, but I think it will probably play into what we might be familiar with The Last of Us, except perhaps with more creativity, right? Okay. The Last of Us didn't have an airbag bomb. It was more just nails stuck through wood. and
Which is still effective.
Very effective. A rudimentary tool, but certainly a violent one. I just want to go into my notes quick to make sure that I hit on everything that we talked about. In the barn, exit seals with the barrel. Yeah, the demo did end up playing out and finishing similar to the press conference in the sense that Deacon got trapped on top of that rooftop and then it sort of zoomed out and gave us a wider view. I think that moment is scripted. I think in the final game, you will just either escape that section or die or, kill the Horde per se. Yeah. And that's one of the, to speak to Deacon's experience as a killer and a mercenary. We were kind of talking about in the podcast how it seemed odd that he had so many bullets and it was a flavor change and how he was pulling them down. Well, it plays into his experience. I mean, he comes to these things well prepared. He comes with a lot of ammo, and that's like always on his person. I do think there's still an odd flavor to the game that it doesn't really... It seems to be playing up a realistic angle and a sort of a life drama and the story of Deacon and the maybe redemption of Deacon. I imagine we'll see some kind of redemption story or something that
because I think I've seen
his character change.
There's some criticisms leveled at the fact that if they're doing something that's like say zombie oriented, I know it's Freakers, but you have the likes of Dead Rising going the comedic route, and that's its niche, and then you have the likes of The Last of Us that do the emotive story. Like, is it carving out its own identity or?
I think it's a little early to say. Right now, it doesn't seem so. It does, like, for the first half of everything we're talking about, it feels very Last of Us. Maybe not as desperate. Like, that's what plays into the society still seeming, functional. And theoretically, although we don't know how the pandemic spreads, because these things can die, there is a theoretical end in sight, unlike The Walking Dead and unlike The Last of Us. So it's a slightly different flavor, but I get Last of Us in the vibes and in the dramatic storytelling that I think Bend Studio is chasing. But then we get to the sawmill section, and it just seems incongruous that Deacon is so effectively able to mow down these hordes and so confident against them. I mean, he literally kills dozens, if not hundreds, within the span of like a minute or two,
Yeah.
So, other than that, I mean, it seemed to perform well. We saw some of those issues where like the AI is a little bit probably dumbed down for E3. It's a little dialed down. But I was impressed with the way that Freakers would find alternate paths to get to you. There's a weight system in place that allows them to clamber over each other and form sort of material ramps of their own, like just by the sheer volume of them.
Like an Optimus Prime type
thing. Like the 10th row can climb over a building because the first 9 rows smashed against it and made a ramp for them kind of thing, right? Good. So there's it certainly seems technologically ambitious. It's just a question of whether the storytelling will come together in a way that makes the world and story makes sense,
Yeah, because for games of similar ilk, we've had those massive highs, so I guess it's a tall order to, get to that as well.
Last cool thing, there's a day and night cycle.
Okay.
And day versus night presents unique risks and rewards. We're explicitly told that the enemies you encounter at night and perhaps the loot you find at nights could make exploration worthwhile, but perhaps enemies will be more aggressive or there'll be more of them, or you just simply can't see them.
Okay.
I mean, because of visibility concerns. And when you're dealing with enemies coming from as many directions as we saw they can come from, I definitely think that will be a new thing in this game, is just dealing with how light hampers you. Weather plays an important
similar
factor
to
too.
the likes of Dying Light, which encourage you to go out at night time to get those better items and stuff. But there was issue with it if you did go out.
Yeah, definitely.
Tougher enemies, bigger stuff. Okay, well that was interesting. Thanks, Carl, for giving your thoughts on Days Gone, and thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned to PSU for all the extended E3 coverage throughout the week as we pretty much see all the greatest and best that PlayStation has to offer for the coming year, and hopefully not too far beyond that. We want release dates.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone, and see you again soon.
Yep.